And I'm looking forward to today's show. We have Roger Voisinay and Richard Price. I think it's their third or fourth time. Roger's even more for Roger.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about Woolen Mills Court. I'm excited for Woolen Mills Court. These guys are two just regular guys, the kind of guys you don't want to pony up and belly up to a bar with and just talk about Charlottesville and development and squash with Richard and just have a good time. So Richard's a Renaissance man. So is Roger. Richard, you see bicycling around town often, walking all over the city. Loves to play squash. He's an architect. Roger, goodness gracious, the man has so many talents over there, Richard. I mean, he's like a networker extraordinaire. He's a guy who's got a passion for solar in Charlottesville.
Retired solar energy maven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I still do a little bit of that. I actually have some big news for you, unrelated to real estate.
Okay. I do like talking real estate.
I'm just going to drop a hint, but
Okay.
don't push me too much, on the UVA Ice Arena project.
Oh.
I hope to be able to talk about it in 30 to 60 days, but you will be totally amazed and surprised how much we've accomplished behind the scenes, including who, what, where, when, and how.
He's a huge ice hockey fan, folks. Was
Well,
one-time UVA coach, right?
15 years.
Yeah.
Actually, the commissioner told me
This is going to be an easy show. You can tell already this is going to be an easy show.
the commissioner told me I hold the all-time career coaching wins in ACC history.
Wow.
I didn't even know that until he redid the website
Cool.
3
Okay.
months ago.
All right.
Roger.
So, yeah, there's so much to talk. I just left UVA Alumni Hall. Give you a hint.
Well,
Second account.
we'll give a tease on that. We're primarily going to talk, folks, Woolen Mills Court. These are the developers behind Woolen Mills Court. I believe it's a team of five.
Yeah.
5 individuals that are bringing Woolen Mills Court to life. Goodness gracious, 15 months of work, 4 sublots.
At least, yeah.
1317 East Market Street. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a house that I think people will recognize once we put it on screen.
Yeah.
Do us a favor of liking and sharing the show. And if you have questions, put them in the feed. We will relay them live on air. Folks that are watching on Roger's page, give Roger some props. One of the great guys in this community. Richard as well. Judah Wickhauer, things are looking good. And Roger, you have, before we start the program, you have the visuals that you can call out for Judah when he can
Okay.
put it on screen. Because if you have them on your tablet, he could just go verbatim what you want. We could do it almost in like presentation
Can you even hear
fashion.
me? Can you see my tablet?
How do you want him, Judah, when he says them?
Yeah, if you want to put what you want and say.
Well, let's do. I call it before. I can describe then current. Okay.
That's fantastic. 15 Twitter accounts we're airing on, LinkedIn, YouTube, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, 15 Facebook pages, Spotify.
Wow.
Pretty
Spotify, did you get as much as Joe Rogan?
not as much as Joe Rogan. That would be nice. That would be nice if it was as much as Joe
I
Rogan.
thought you were good.
Joe Rogan,
hold
you know.
out for the big
Come
time.
on.
right?
Richard and Roger, when I started this show, I had a passion for Charlottesville. Maybe in retrospect, I could have gone more macro or holistic. But Charlottesville is something we're passionate about. Judah Wickhauer, things are looking good. I'm already seeing, goodness gracious, comments for the fellas. We got television, radio, and print, and viewers and listeners of all ages watching the show. How you feeling over there, Judah? You're looking all right? Okay, fantastic. And we can start the program. I'll confirm LinkedIn when you are ready, my friend. And LinkedIn is up and running. John Blair, I think you're going to love this show. John Blair watching, one of the absolute great guys, John Blair. We can start that show when you're ready, Judah. Welcome to the I Love CVille show, guys. My name is Jerry Miller. Good Wednesday afternoon to you, and thank you kindly for joining us on what we like to call the water cooler of conversation in Charlottesville, Albemarle County, and Central Virginia. We talk all topics, all content verticals. For example, yesterday, we broke the news that there's a team behind Blue Moon Diner. And while we will not see Blue Moon Diner rebirthed or recreated, we will see a vacant restaurant filled very soon as 3 men are pursuing an entrepreneurial endeavor to bring a pub and a restaurant to where Blue Moon Diner sits empty today. That project ongoing right now. Breaking news on yesterday's show. At the end of last week, we offered you the breaking news of 303 Alderman Road with 6 luxury brownstones. Now scrapped, the signage gone. An evergreen, perhaps pivoting plans to maybe one very large single-family detached home where they can quickly exit what was an $800,000 plus purchase more than a year ago in a prestigious Antony Lewis Mountain neighborhood that, goodness gracious, fought and clawed this project from the start. A lot we're going to cover on today's show. We're going to talk a smidge of the elections that transpired yesterday, but I'll offer that commentary on tomorrow's show. Today's program is all about Roger Voisinay and Richard Price and what they're doing at Woolen Mills Court. Before we get to 2 gentlemen in this community who need absolutely no introduction, household names, and I'm not just saying that because they're sitting at the table with me right now. They certainly are. I want to offer 30 seconds of commentary on what happened yesterday in Albemarle County and 30 seconds of commentary that what happened in the city of Charlottesville. First, the city. Jen Fleischer gets a victory in the ranked choice voting, the first ranked choice voting scenario in Charlottesville history. Brian Pinkston off of council, Juan Diego Wade elected for a second term. It was a convincing victory for Jen Fleischer. Juan Diego Wade, we knew was going to get reelected, and Brian Pinkston is now going to be off the dais. Very curious to see how this takes Charlottesville in a new direction. As one very intelligent person told me earlier today, maybe it's a sign that Charlottesville citizens are looking for a fresh start and for actual tangible progress on the dais. In Albemarle County, ladies and gentlemen, Sally Duncan beats Dave Shreve in the Jack Jewett District. It's very clear that Duncan is going to raise taxes on homeowners and property owners in Albemarle County or make a push to do so while she's on the Board of Supervisors. That was in her campaign material. Duncan and Mike Pruitt team with potentially Ned Galloway to change Albemarle County's Board of Directors in a way that I don't think I've ever seen in my 25 years of being in this community, progressive as I've ever seen the Board of Supervisors right now. Those topics on tomorrow's show. Judah Wickhauer behind the camera. We will thank our partners, Charlottesville Sanitary Supply, for being a part of the show. 61 consecutive years of business on East High Street and online at charlottesvillesanitarysupply.com. Great people, 4 generations of Albemarle County behind that business. charlottesvillesanitarysupply.com. And in person on East High Street. Lloyd Snook, hello. Georgia Gilmer, hello. Rob Neal, hello. Gary Palmer, the real estate broker, very talented. Scott Byer, hello. Chad Wood, hello. Print, radio, and television, hello. Elected officials from 3 jurisdictions watching the water cooler of conversation. And join us in today's show, guys, by leaving your perspective in the feed. Judah Wickhauer, now is the time, my friend. 3-shot. Roger and Richard are now on screen. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Thank you kindly for joining us.
Hey there.
Good
My
afternoon.
pleasure. Good afternoon.
Glad to be here.
It's absolutely our pleasure. I sincerely mean that. There are few topics I enjoy talking more than real estate and development.
I mean, we've talked a lot about this project with you and with other people, so glad to be back. Yeah.
Our community is excited to hear about this. This could be, ladies and gentlemen, the first project birthed in a historic new zoning ordinance here in Charlottesville. And these 2 gentlemen are the flag bearers of that project. I will get out of your way, set the stage, Roger Voisinay first, with what is going on with Woolen Mills Court.
You know, we postponed this show for months and months because we wanted to have at least some hurdle that we've achieved, some flagstone event. We finally did a couple of Fridays ago. It was a relief. So here's the story. I moved into the Woolen Mills in 1982, and I would drive by this house on 16th and East Market for a decade, and I thought this was the worst house in the neighborhood. But then some woman bought it and fixed it up a bit, and then she put it on the market, and I bought it. I had to beat out Oliver by 1 day.
Oliver Kootner.
Yeah, he wanted to buy it for parking. He wanted to put a parking lot in the backyard. But I saw a great backyard for a second home. Now, the first house is facing East Market Street. Judah's got the picture on on the screen here.
You can give us a thumbs up when it's on screen. He'll let us know. I'll let you know when it's on screen now. Good job, Judah.
Yeah, so that's what it looked like for 28 years. Then I decided to make an application under the new city zoning. So it's a 10,000 square foot lot. And to do a second home in the backyard facing 16th, I would have needed 12,000 square foot.
Under the old code.
Yeah, and there was no way of getting around that. We tried. Richard, counseled me about maybe doing a PUD or something, but it never got anywhere. So the new zoning, we're RA zoning.
RA.
The new zoning allow for this possible sublot creation. So, Judah, maybe you can go to the current picture, which shows the same house with the vinyl siding removed.
On screen.
Yeah, and then the third is the plat, the sublots. So here's what I had to offer. I knew how to assemble a team. Obviously, Richard. Daniel Heyer is our engineer, Richard's engineer for East High condominiums. And we both work with Mike Sadler, our Charlottesville area builders. He's the third member of the team. And of course, we wanted to use Brian and Roger Ray to do the surveying. So we made this application the same day the city first allowed it to be, which was February of 2024, February 17th, if I recall.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. And we were the first day. Richard was told to apply online, which he did, and it didn't quite work that way. So we applied manually. So once you make an application, we're kind of hoping for the best. And I think it took 90 days to get a response, was it? You recall?
On the first submission package, yeah, which is the prescribed time. That's right. Yeah.
So you apply in February of 2024,
Yeah.
and 90 days later, you get first contact from the city.
Well, the first, no, not the first contact, but the first round of comments, official comments
Feedback.
from the city. Yeah,
Okay.
official feedback.
And that's the regulation to give a response in 90
Yeah.
days, I believe. So we had pre-submission meetings, Richard and Daniel, with the city. So they were aware of what we're doing. In fact, James Fries, who was in charge at the time, at the Tom Tom Festival.
He was the head of neighborhood development at the time.
He said at Tom Tom, when I was in the audience, that our little project was his favorite, which gave me encouragement. But that was that just shows you that they had been aware of it. So that takes us to April of 2024. And they asked us to do things like tell them what was the flow rate of the nearest fire hydrant. I remember that one as being one of the comments.
Yeah.
You remember some others?
Yeah, no, those are the kinds of comments we'd expect to get from the city on a development review process. So nothing out of the ordinary except, of course, the stormwater issue. That's the... Yeah.
So think about the city's point of view. They have to look at it for, all the utilities are underground. So that's a big vector, making sure everything would work because we're going to have new sewer and water connections. Of course, there's electricity overhead, and it has to be a room for the easement for these connections. So I think a lot of it was dealing with the utility ideas behind the scenes, and stormwater is the one that Richard just pointed out is a sticky wicket.
Comments are already coming in. Neil Williamson, president of the Free Enterprise Forum, watching the program. He says, for what it's worth, per Neighborhood Development Services presentation at City Council Monday, since May 2024 to May of 2025, there have been 90 pre-application meetings, 20 applications filed, and only 3 projects approved under the new zoning ordinance. Only 3 approved. And he's giving a little background and color here. Neil Williamson, the president of the Free Enterprise Forum. Elected officials from 4 jurisdictions now watching the program, as well as legacy media. Woolen Mills Court, you said at least 15 months, kind of hinting it's a labor of love much longer than 15 months. When was this idea first birthed?
I'm sorry, the idea for the project?
Yeah.
Talking about?
When did you guys? When would you say that you first started working on this?
Well, Roger and I have been talking about this property for years. I mean,
Yeah.
he was interested in doing something, and it made perfect sense to me as an infill project in the city. I mean, probably 10 years ago we first
Yeah.
talked about it, I guess. But the zoning ordinance just didn't allow anything. I mean, you could have put an accessory unit back there,
Yeah.
but not a separate, not a subdivision and a separate piece of property there. So when the new zoning ordinance was passed, that opened up the opportunity for us to get serious about doing this project.
Why so long from application submittal? You guys were the first ones, I think, probably to submit when the NZO was official. To this point, we don't even have a shovel cracked. Not a shovel in the ground.
No.
No, did you say why is it so? Did it take so long?
Yeah, why so long?
Well, that's the big question. We don't know. I mean, you'd have to ask the city, I guess.
Well,
Richard knows.
we got comments on the first round of submission, more than a year ago.
Yep.
And the sticking point here has been stormwater. And it's an issue, without going into too much detail about it, the city has various touch points when you have to file a stormwater management plan for an entire project, and this project is over one of those limits. So we were faced with a project that we needed to file a stormwater plan in order to get it approved, but a site that is too small and financially not viable, really, to do a full-fledged stormwater management plan here. And it's an issue that we made the city aware of, several of us made the city aware of during the process when they were writing the code. And our initial conversations with the city before we submitted was everyone understood this was going to be an issue, and that the city was going to be working on revising their regulations so that this kind of project can move forward. And they are still in the process of working on trying to revise the stormwater regs so that these small infill projects can move forward like that.
Can you gentlemen give us the layman's flip book of this project? Existing structure, new structures, layman's flip book.
So if it's zoned RA, and if you keep the existing home, you can build an additional 3 or even 6 more units. 6 would come with a caveat they'd have to be affordable. We chose to do 3 single-family detached. We could have done townhomes or attached, for instance. Richard did a number of studies. Keeping the existing one was key. I wanted to keep it all along. It's a nice house. Ended up selling it to Dave McNair and his sister. And his son, Cole, lived there for free for almost all the time we were going through this. 6-bedroom. I'm going to tell you like numbers because people who are listening might want to know that.
Yeah.
6-bedroom, 2-bath home with 2 meters, exterior entrance to the lower level. Sold for $295, one on sublot 4. So Judah, can you put up the plat maybe? If it's on the screen, the sublot 4 is the left rectangle that has the house rectangle inside it.
Okay.
So that's already closed. So I don't own it anymore. Dave owns it. He's going to use Ben Myrtle's company, Rex, to renovate it. And that should be started any day now. And then we have sublot 1, 2, and 3. And the team has already expressed an interest in buying each lot. Like Richard's going to get one, and Mike's going to get either 2 or 1. Daniel would like 1, but I think Mike's going to get 2, Mike Sadler. The other member of I call him the team because it takes a whole team to get this done, which is one of the lessons I've learned. And whoever's listening, if they have any property like this, I have some, lessons to share with them.
You have a team of experts. I mean, you Richard, Daniel, Mike Sadler, Brian Ray, you, Roger. How do you do a project like that without this kind of institutional memory?
Now, there's a great question. I think this was for us and for the city a kind of a trial balloon. So
You're the beta.
that's part of the reason why I think I'm doing this and working with Roger on this. For someone to hire this team off the street to do
It'd be too expensive.
probably be pretty expensive, yeah. So we're all kind of doing this. We'll all have some equity in the project at the end, but it's for us. It's just kind of a test here to see what we can make work.
This in a lot of ways, I've been thinking more about this the older I get with kids and a wife here. This in a lot of ways is going to be tied to your professional legacies in Charlottesville.
Yeah.
The first project potentially under this new zoning ordinance, you guys are the guinea pigs here.
Yeah, that seems to be my specialty. Being guinea pig, yeah, exactly. So,
Well, apropos, Richard
anyway.
did River's Edge,
Right?
River Bluff,
Yeah.
1130 condominiums.
Which I think are a milestone project
Yeah.
on High Street. I sincerely mean that,
Yeah.
not just because you're here. That is, your resume, one of the most milestone projects I would say on your resume.
Well, I appreciate that, and I think there was a lot of. I've had a lot of great compliments and comments about the project over the year. A lot of people would like to see more projects like that in Charlottesville, and I would love to do more projects like that. But I think some of these zoning issues just need to get, or the planning issues need to get resolved before we can. I think the floodgates are going to open here. So yeah.
So apropos to your question about expenses, it cost me $44,000 to do all this, plus lost income on the house for a year and a quarter. So someone would have to be prepared to spend at least that much.
So you figure is it 6 bedrooms, 2 baths?
Yeah.
You figure a house like that rents for probably $4,000 a month, easy peasy in that location.
Well, I didn't charge that much because it wasn't in great condition. It was,
you're somewhere
So I had a tenant there for 15 years in a row.
you're somewhere between, I'd say, close to $100,000 of lost income here.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Is that your number?
Yeah, so here's what I would like to tell people who have property, that they should look for a parcel that's on the side street that has road frontage in 2 places, like I did.
A corner lot.
Corner lot, because
Yeah.
if there was 10 lots on that block, and there's only 2 on the end, a corner lot, Joe Milby's and mine. The people in between don't have as much latitude to do what I'm doing.
Well, that's why Evergreen targeted 303 Alderman Road
Yeah,
and Lewis Mountain, because it had the road, it was a corner lot.
Yeah.
yeah.
And go ahead.
The other thing I learned is if someone has property, instead of trying to sell it for a high price because it can be rezoned, like so many people are doing,
Which is all that's happening now.
like Chesapeake, there's
Yep.
this that's been on the market for 2 years. Instead of doing that, they should do what I'm doing, is hire a team and develop it oneself. Now, not many people,
A few people are going to do that.
not many people have the background or the vision or
The bandwidth.
but they would have to hire Richard and Daniel to get going.
Well, yeah, let me throw in a plug for, I just resigned from a great group called Incremental Development Alliance, which is a national organization that helps small property owners, cities do small-scale infill development and help just average Joe become developers. And so I think incrementaldevelopment.org, if you're interested. It's a great resource, but I think that kind of organization is the kind of organization that's needed to help small property owners become their own developers. And quite frankly, it doesn't make sense to try to sell a property to a professional developer to do this kind of development. The numbers just don't work.
Yeah,
so
takes
I
the
think
meat away.
the future of this kind of small
Exactly.
development is property owners doing it themselves, with support from, ideally we could turn this into a quick and easy service that we could help small property owners with just a very small amount of money to do some consulting and help with this and let them do it themselves. But I think we're a ways away from that.
I think
point yet. Yeah. So.
I got so much I want to ask you guys.
Okay.
I have so much. I love this topic here. One of the viewers and listeners that lives in the city, that is currently on his ranch in Montana, has comets that he's watching. We call him Deep Throat. And he says he has data, he pours through data like no one I've seen. He says Neighborhood Development Services now has a better database of the projects going on.
Yeah.
Of the 715 approved and not under construction units, it looks like under 20 of them are with the new zoning ordinance. Of the more than 900 units that are under construction currently, every single one is under the old zoning code.
Yeah.
And he says, and he wants me to ask you guys, is that an indication, that data, that this new zoning ordinance needs to be revamped completely or maybe currently a flop?
No, I don't think so. I think I don't think it has anything to do with the zoning ordinance, actually. I think if anything, the new zoning ordinance probably makes it easier to develop more properties in more different ways. There's probably some properties that were downzoned as part of that process, which happens all the time. So there's probably a number of things that are going on right now because of market conditions and because they might have lost some potential or had already had some momentum going under the old code. My perspective is the new zoning ordinance is, from my perspective as a designer and developer, it is far superior to the old code. It makes things easier. There are more options available. That said, there are, and I think the city's well aware of this, there are plenty of bugs and tweaks that are needed in the new zoning ordinance to really make it, bring it up to its potential, let's say. And certainly the process that we're going through now indicates that there's other things that need to be fixed here too. But I think from my perspective, the new zoning ordinance is a great improvement over what we had before.
Yeah, it's way too soon to call it a flop. I mean, think about a sports trade. You know, you can't judge the trade until 2, 3, 4 years down the road.
It's been 16 months.
Yeah, but that's not very much in this world of real estate.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like Richard said, it's going to offer more opportunities. Well, by the way, my neighbor, Charles Woolheater, to the east, he's ecstatic about this. You wouldn't think so because he's going to have 3 new homes that'll be facing his backyard. But he thinks, I didn't have to sell him on this. He was immediately taken with the idea and thought it was great to improve the neighborhood. So we're going to have 4 new homes, basically, soon. I don't know when now, because that's the next big question. When do we apply for a building permit? But just think, if this process took 6 months instead of 15, we could have had all those homes built already. And the city would have been receiving
Additional tax revenue.
$20,000 a year instead of $3,000 a year in real estate taxes.
Michael Corbett watching the program.
Hey, Mike.
Roger and Richard are true visionaries, he says. I cannot wait to see this project and what they create. A lot of realtors watching the program here. We got builders watching the program here.
Right.
I got your architect colleagues watching here. It seems you guys are the experts. I'm just a layman that likes to dabble in real estate.
Yeah. Maybe you want to put up the images of the future here.
Yes, Judah, could you please put up Richard's site plans?
Site plan and the aerial shots there.
And give us a thumbs up when those are on screen.
the
And then we
aerial-
have probably half a dozen questions for you guys here.
Sure. The aerial would be good.
That's on screen, the aerial.
Okay, and then
Okay.
maybe go to the site plans. I think we have 2 or 3 of those.
So yeah, it's a. I mean, the site is kind of a slam dunk from an infill perspective. It's on in a corner lot, and the neighboring properties are all in similar size and scale. So I think it's going to feel very much like a neighborhood that's been there for a long time when we're done, as you can see from the images there. So, and I think the origin of this code really comes from the question of how do we infill, how do we increase density in the city without changing the character of the city. And the logical solution there, you know, what's happened in the past is tear downs and building bigger buildings in place of smaller buildings.
Which is what Evergreen wanted to do in Lewis Mountain
Yeah.
with the 6 brownstones, which caused a lot of,
Yeah.
friction.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think that this new zoning ordinance does encourage, deliberately with some development bonuses for keeping existing units to do infill in scale and in character and kind of in keeping with what's there, which has been our intent all along here. So I think we've been kind of successfully come up with a successful approach to kind of give the city a positive example of what the new zoning ordinance can do here. So that's I think what our
Do we have the pictures on the screen of?
Yeah, he's been rotating
the
them on.
homes?
And you can call for exactly what you want, and he can put them on.
Okay.
Well, they're all, I don't know what's up there now, but they're all good.
Yeah.
I'll show 3 new homes on their own little lot. The lots are about 2,200 square foot each. They're, the dimensions?
sublots about 40 by 50, 45 by 50. Yeah, they're small lots, city lots. They're it's not a large suburban house. It is a single-family detached house in the city.
How many square feet each house?
Well, we haven't finalized the design yet, but around 1,500 above grade. Yeah.
Okay. Finished
So,
basements?
Modest side, optionally, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just left Huntley, Huntley, our
Yep.
buyers' homes, and
Huntley, guys, to put those in perspective, behind Dirty Nellie's down Strimbling Avenue.
yeah. So I
Very
just left-
small lots.
I just left her because it's going to be kind of similar. Those houses will be a little bit bigger.
Those are
'Cause
pretty
they're
big
about-
houses.
They're 850 square foot on each floor,
Yep.
and I'm thinking 700 maybe. for
700,
us.
750, yeah.
Yeah. And that basement may or may not be finished, or it could be semi-finished. Richard and Mike will have the final say on all that. But we
Is-
have to build homes that'll be sellable or at least rentable. And we don't know the price yet, but,
I have to ask you, what's back of the napkin price point?
well, houses like this are always $300 a square foot.
Okay. So
I
300
tried
a
to-
foot?
I tried to keep the lots as low as possible. So did we talk about lot prices? So
We ha-
they'll be retail 110. So to give you an idea, down the street at River's Edge, at the end of Chesapeake, I sold a lot. On paper, it's larger, but it's all in the floodplain, and it's steep for 230 4 months ago. So 110's pretty fair. But we want to keep the prices as low as possible. So who knows what the prices are going to end up with? We don't know right now.
So how walk us through the mechanics of the deal here. You sell the lots.
We're going to sell the lots.
Roger Voisinec.
I'll sell the lots.
Okay.
I'm still
You
on-
guys, you buy a lot.
Yeah.
I'm buying one lot.
One lot. One of your partners in this deal is buying one, maybe two.
Mike Sadler wants 2.
Okay.
right now.
Mike Sadler wants to. That's the builder.
Yeah, Charlottesville area builders.
Okay. And Sadler constructs the 3 homes.
Yes.
He'll build, at least, he may turn around and sell one of his lots too, I don't know, but he'll build at least one house. I'll build a house. Mike may or may not be the contractor for that. And then a third lot, and it'll be a different contractor on the existing
So
house.
he's thinking Sadler. I'm just talking out loud here. 3 guys out on a talk
Yep.
show or at the bar. Sadler's thinking if he buys 2 lots, homes are constructed, the value of the lot, should he sell the second one, is going to uptick because you got brand new homes right there next to him.
So, I mean, and a lot of that
Just
is-
talking out loud.
Yeah.
Sure, it's just, a lot of that's dependent on market and all that.
Sure.
It may be advantageous for him to build and hold. He might sell the lot, he might sell a spec house, I don't know.
Yeah, he
it's all-
never said that to us.
Okay.
I always thought we'd build 3 houses at the same time.
Uh-huh.
'Cause it's more efficient.
Sure.
Because these homes are not really in his sweet spot, because Mike's more of a 800,000 to 1.5 million guy.
Yeah, he's a
And the
single
kind of-
family detached,
Yeah.
3,000 to 5,000 square foot guy.
Yeah, but he lives, his office is 3 blocks away. and
Right.
We're,
right.
we're all friends. And he builds a great house.
He does.
I would be so thrilled if he built these homes.
So
which I think he will.
we're talking 1,500 finished square feet
Yeah,
at 300 a foot. So that's about what, quick math, 450,000?
Yeah, but then there's the basement
plus
part.
the lot, yeah.
And then the lots we're valuing
No.
it at $110. So we're at
No,
560.
300 is usually, for instance, if you took a house in Huntley that sold,
Uh-huh.
it would be $300 a square
A
foot,
square foot, right.
which
That's what I'm
includes the
saying, yeah.
lot.
Including the lot, right, okay.
So I would say what we're talking about is a house that's more like 2,000 square feet.
Okay.
Or 21 times 3.
Yeah, it's got the basement as well, so it's probably up, I would guess, easily north of 600,000 by the time we're done.
When you guys come into market north of 600?
Probably.
Because you guys have to factor in, obviously, realtor fees, closing costs,
Exactly.
recording, all the carrying costs.
Well, construction is what it is.
Yep.
We all know.
It's not gonna get cheaper.
Land, labor, and lumber. Well, lumber's not going down, and labor's certainly not. Land, I tried to keep low or reasonable.
Let me ask you this question. Tough question for you here, Richard. When you sell what you build, which frankly could be, maybe you guys come into market in, this is crazy to say, spring 2027?
Well, hopefully before that, but yes, it's possible. I mean, it could be that long.
Because we don't have a permit, right?
No, we don't have a permit yet. We haven't applied for it yet.
Right.
Yeah.
So is spring 2027 reasonable?
Well, I thought sooner than that.
I'd hope sooner than that, but yeah, it probably.
A permit doesn't take that long.
Well, is it too aggressive to say the spring 2026 market?
I doubt we'll make that, but
Right.
we might make the fall.
And I think at that
2025.
point, you probably may want to hold to spring 2027.
Yeah.
So if you go to market spring 2027 with a six handle there, tough question. Does Richard Price make money on this? Considering
there's the
everything,
question. Yeah, that's
the
a good
opportunity
question.
cost of your
Well,
time?
The big question for me, yeah, I mean, there's a question of holding for a long-term gain versus selling. That's a decision I haven't made yet. Part of that's going to depend on the market and interest rates. Right now, things don't look very favorable to hold it and rent it, so I may have to sell it, and I don't know. But the bottom line is I don't know. And if we're building in a recession, of course, that's going to be another factor.
I don't think it'll be recession.
Well, wouldn't be the first time that I have
Built in a recession.
Built in a recession,
Sure.
yeah. And
That's why
it's
people don't usually spec build.
Yeah, exactly.
I did spec houses in 2007. But it was pretty bad in those times.
Yeah,
Chisholm Place.
I finished a couple right
River's Edge.
as things
It worked.
crashed in 2008. So yeah,
Yeah, it
it was,
worked fine,
it was
though.
painful. But
A lot of folks coming in, a lot of questions coming in.
Okay.
We'll highlight some of the viewers and listeners. Park, is it Muth?
Park Muth.
Muth, sorry.
UVA
for missing.
admissions office.
Michael Reisenberg
Yeah.
watching the program. Eric Murphy, you got legacy media all over this, electeds all over this, builders, realtors, and bankers all over this. Got to talk about the lawsuit with the new zoning ordinance.
Yeah.
We have plaintiffs that have tied this up in court for an extended period of time. Crazy to say this. It is not going to have its day in court, this new zoning lawsuit, until June of 2026,
Why is that?
which is bananas, more than a year. I couldn't tell you that. I'm not an attorney. I couldn't tell you why it's taken that long. The city has operated without a city attorney for an extended period of time. They just got one.
Okay.
There's now one hired. Open-ended question first. Does the new zoning ordinance lawsuit give you pause, keep you up at night, concern you at all? Or is that just called the cost of doing business and something you just have to navigate?
well, that's a good question. I mean, there's a million things that can go wrong in a development project, right? So that's just on one hand, it's just like, well, just one more thing I've got to deal with down the road. But and I guess it's like airplane crashes. It's a remote possibility, but it's not something I obsess about every day. More worried about interest rates than I am about the zoning ordinance at this point. I say that, and my understanding is we have the property subdivided
Yeah.
and recorded, and that at that point we can't go backwards on that. We have buildable lots, and that's vested at this point. I'm not an attorney, obviously, so that I may be misunderstanding the whole point here. But my understanding is, now that the lots are recorded,
Yeah.
we're safe.
That would be a natural segue for me. I'll throw it to you. Last week we had Jerry Cox on the show. He is an attorney. He lives in the Lewis Mountain neighborhood, and he's the managing director of the Forerunner Foundation that's following zoning all over the Commonwealth, all over the country. He highlighted on the show listings in Arlington County, which I mentioned to you guys, that are now on the market for sale that have caveats in their listings, in the marketing of the actual house, that says this home was built under the Arlington zoning ordinance that is currently tied up in court. Arlington County has appealed this zoning ordinance to make it basically legal. Homeowners are fighting against it. And the language says that if the homeowners win that are fighting this zoning ordinance, this house may have to be torn down. That language is literally in the listing agreement.
Yep.
And he showed it to us on the show.
This is the first I've heard of this. Again, our attorney has not raised that concern with us. So I don't know where that stands. And maybe that Charlottesville's lawsuit is
Different, maybe?
different
Yeah.
somehow.
Neither of us are lawyers here.
Yeah, so I don't know what the issue is.
It didn't give me pause, but I would have been concerned had the city suspended reviews and said we're not going to go any further. But they proceeded with confidence, and they approved our subdivision to these sublots. And Bill Tucker closed on sublot 4 with his title company.
And they have title insurance on the
And they
property.
have title
so,
insurance.
yeah,
It was a 1031 exchange, and I tell you David bought it. He's local. He's a reporter. He was well aware of any lawsuits, and he wasn't concerned. So
Yeah.
that's about all I know. I'll be selling the lots, so I don't have the same exposure as someone who would build a house.
I understand that.
I can't imagine a city getting away with tearing down a brand new home in this day and age.
I understand that. I
Maybe
understand
pay a penalty or something, but
Comments coming in. This is an intriguing one for Richard. Why not hold what you build and keep it as a rental?
Well, that's my first choice, and it's really going to come down to the economics. If I can get a decent return on my capital, and that's going to come down to what the market is like when we're done and what the interest rates are, that kind of thing. So it's.
Can I put in perspective
Yep.
what you're saying for
Sure.
the viewers? So he's going to take a construction loan to build a house,
Yes,
and there's going to be carrying costs on that loan to build the house.
right.
And whatever that carrying cost is, it's X. If he can rent it for X plus, then he may consider renting the house.
Exactly. Yeah.
If he rents it for X minus, then
Not
that's
a
when
good
you
deal.
consider
That's-
selling it.
Then I'm losing money. Yeah,
Then you're
exactly.
losing money.
So it's.
Yeah, that's what you're saying.
Yeah, and I can be as public spirited as I want to, but on the other hand, losing money on real estate.
We're all
deals
business
is not-
people.
Yeah, we got to
Yeah.
earn a living. We have to.
Yeah.
but eventually he will sell it because everybody does.
Yeah, eventually
Like
they'll
me.
sell it, but
I
yeah.
eventually sold.
Yeah, yeah.
I've owned this
And,
one over 28 years.
Yeah, and there's some other considerations too. I think largely, that have nothing to do with this specific project about how big or small my rental portfolio is. Does this fit in with what I'm doing? I just sold a rental property because I was tired of maintaining it, but this will be a brand new, potentially a brand new rental property, which is easier to maintain, so a better deal for me. So yeah.
Yeah, new construction, easier to maintain, guys, than construction that's been around
Yeah,
for a while.
so-
That's what he's saying. Here's a fantastic question. Richard, why not attached inventory or attached product with this project? That's a great question.
Well, we
Yeah.
alluded to that already.
Yeah, no,
looked at that.
we did look at that, and I think it's a great question. For me, the big advantage of doing single-family detached like this is just the flexibility. That when you're building attached units, they really need to have an economy of scale with the attached units. They need to be built all at once, and by having 4 separate projects, one, I think it fits better into that
Neighborhoods.
into the neighborhood,
All
into the
detached.
context, and then it also gives us more flexibility about, do we build all 3 at once, one after the other, one now, one 10 years from now, that kind of thing. So,
And we
It's-
really wanted the neighborhood to be happy, and we wanted these homes
Yeah.
to look like, in a couple of years, they've
They
been
belong
there. When the
here,
trees
yeah.
grow up, it looks like
yeah,
they've
yeah.
been there a long time.
I think what you guys did, and you guys is super smart, and you guys got your pulse on Charlottesville. You came to market with a project where the project fits in with the neighborhood feel, and I hate to compare and contrast with what they were trying to do in Lewis Mountain,
Yeah.
but they built something that was going to tower over all the other homes
Yeah.
and just not fit the neighborhood profile. And because of that, they face significant friction.
Yeah.
You know, you think about this. You guys were both first to market at the same time. First to market at the same time. You guys have been embraced by the community, almost the red carpet rolled out, where the other project immediately fighting tooth and nail against it. And it comes to market at the same time.
Well, it might have to do something with the neighborhood itself too.
Willow Mills is pretty Tony and wealthy and to do these days as well. I know Lewis Mountain is.
Yeah, well, I don't know that particular part of Willow Mills is necessarily
Fair?
that Tony. I think it's nice, solid, I would say, neighborhood, but I have not heard any pushback from the neighbors.
I haven't
but,
heard a single ounce of pushback.
Well, no, I just told you Charles is all for it. Now,
Yeah.
if you look at 1317 East Market on 16, the house directly to the west on the 1315 sold for, I think, 500. It's two-story brick, older house, and then he put on a $500,000 addition in the back with Halcyon Construction. He's got like $1 million in that home. He'll be ecstatic.
Yeah, because it's another compound
We're
there
helping
that
him.
just right.
Yeah, we're helping him. And then the other three homes are nice, smaller homes. Never see anybody out there, or I would talk to them. I've literally never seen anyone in the other three homes. They'll keep to themselves.
it does bring up. I think when I was on with Bob Pinio a couple of years back, we had a discussion about
Also an architect.
Yeah.
also an architect and developer.
Constantly walking around the downtown mall on the phone. Bob
Yeah.
Pidio, always on the phone.
He lives in the neighborhood.
But one of our discussion points there, which I thought was relevant, is that the small scale development like this is really design centric. You really have to think. It's not doesn't generally lend itself to just grabbing something off the shelf and plopping it down. You really have to look at the context
Yep.
and the kind of the approach that's going to fit in and work there. So I can't speak to the other project, but I know that.
You're saying the temperature of the neighborhood.
Yeah, from my perspective, trying to fit in is generally a good design strategy.
Yeah.
And
We called it the bull in the china shop strategy with Lewis Mountain, where we called you guys the strategy with it's like you're a team player.
trying to be, yeah.
Just think, we could have done one house in the back that was 3,500 square feet that wouldn't fit in as well. We wouldn't be as proud of it.
Would have been
And-
easier.
Would have
less
been easier,
friction.
definitely would have been
Might have
easier.
made path to profitability much quicker.
We might have actually had that built by now. Yeah, we might have.
Yeah.
But it's kind of par for the course with me. I take the long, stubborn route instead of the short, easy route. Yeah.
Well, I think, things that take slow time or slow progress usually lasting and
Yeah.
something we're more proud of. That's certainly how I talk about the Ice Arena project.
I can't wait to talk about that. Questions continue to come in. This is an interesting one. Can the panel give any insight into the city's ability or performance with carrying out ministerial acts, approvals, and how they've become either more efficient or less efficient?
Well, all I know is it was semi-opaque, the whole process. There's a dashboard, which maybe Judah can put on I took 3 screenshots of our dashboard, which is the interface between a project applicant and the city, and it shows you how many, you can see on the screen how many lines there are, and each one is a individual or a department who had to review this process or project, and then they had to pass it on to someone else. Some of them have hyperlinks to their comments. So that was our connection to the city, save for, emailing Ben Colby or Matt Alfell or Kelly Brown or James Fries, who are all really great to work with and very personable. I have a lot of good feelings about interacting with them. But mostly neither of us knew what was going on in between answering their their questions or resubmitting something and then waiting for a response?
I think the city is certainly improving their responsiveness on these kinds of things. I think there's a bit of a culture shift that I think is in process now, from one of being kind of a strict regulatory enforcer to looking at the big picture here, which is we're trying to get more housing built, and we have a shared goal between the development community and the city, which is to make that happen. And so I think that shift is ongoing right now. That the question becomes not have they dotted every I and crossed every T, but can we work together to solve the problems? The city clearly always has issues with development, which are generally make sense. And the logical strategy in my mind is to work in tandem with developers to resolve the issues, to achieve our common goal, which is to build more housing here. And I think the city is working towards that goal now. I think they've got a ways to go yet, but I could definitely have seen an improvement over the years at NDS and the city in general. So
Yeah, it would be great if there was like an ombudsman or a developer's internal representative who could sort of help shepherd it through.
Facilitator.
Yeah, a facilitator.
Yeah.
Who we could, not just the neighborhood development guy, but someone who's really in charge of making sure that something gets done on time, or people behind the scenes are on vacation or don't understand something or just forget. That would be great to see if there was an ombudsman or a facilitator.
We'll highlight some of the viewers and listeners here. Nora Gaffney, Philip Dow, William McChesney, Tina Bryant, Logan Wells-Colelo, Vanessa Parkhill, Joanne Moore, Barbara Tilley, just a few that are watching the program here. Comments continue to come in. We'll try to get to as many of these as possible. Question for Richard and Roger. What are their thoughts on how some of these properties are marketed with their zoning opportunity, which seems to be driving up asking prices? Do they think the asking prices are justified, or are they pipe dreams?
Well, I mentioned that at the beginning, how I don't think that's a great approach for a homeowner to look at what we're doing and say, I want to sell my little house for $400 or $500. And we used that listing on Chesapeake Street as an example, where they're touting doing something like this, but it's not nearly as practical. And I'd love to see whoever owns that property to hire Richard and Daniel and see what they could do.
Well, I mean, this is not a new issue in the city. I think the real estate community, Roger, you probably will agree with me, but sees a lot of value in potential.
Yeah.
That is
Opportunity.
yeah, which is great, but you still have to spend a lot of money and time and effort to realize that potential. So I think in some ways that it's kind of a false value added thing, that yes, you can subdivide and get more units in here, but the expense of doing that is, you have to take that into consideration when you're actually...
Yeah, the buyers are going to take a big risk, and so they're not going to pay a premium for a high risk, especially this time of the whole rezoning. It's just started. They don't know for sure
I think
what they can do. Luckily, so I had a low basis, which is why I could do this.
Yeah.
I wouldn't buy this for $400 and try to do it.
Right.
Absolutely.
I understand that.
Right.
I personally have some questions. Then we'll get to the viewers and listeners' questions.
Yep.
Other projects in Charlottesville. You guys follow housing and development across the board. What did you make of Jeff Levine's pursuit of trying to build that apartment tower where Violent Crown, and asking for some wiggle room with the city on height and stories and floors? Did you guys follow that? Did you think it was a good project for Charlottesville? Did you think it was not a good fit for the mall? I mean, it's not going to materialize now, so we can talk about it.
Yeah, this is the project on the where
the movie theater.
furniture
Violet
stores.
Crown.
Yeah, right.
Violet Crown.
Oh, Violet Crown, that one,
Yeah,
right? Okay.
yeah.
You know,
It's
the
not
zoning-
going to happen, so we can talk freely.
Yeah, I mean, the zoning ordinance is what it is. I think there is always room to dicker about what the right mass and allowable volume should be on these things. And it's supposedly going through a public process. I mean, I'm not surprised to hear they couldn't get it through the process. I think that's, asking for.
Same with Keith Woodard's. I mean, it took 2 years to sort of design it and get the utilities. And by that time, the prices of
You're talking Water Street?
construction went up
The,
20%.
on the
So
market.
he needed another floor
downtown
to be
parking
added,
lot,
and they
yeah.
said no.
Yeah.
The council. It's tough to make the numbers work.
Yeah, it's Charlottesville is a kind of a tricky market in the sense that our expenses are no different than they would be in the big city of, DC or DC area, something like that, but our rents and sale prices are a significant amount below those prices, and so there's a very kind of narrow box at Charlottesville where I think you can actually make these kind of projects work, which is one of the reasons I sort of stick with, single-family wood frame, simple projects that I know I can make work in that box in Charlottesville, and getting into high-rise construction, which makes sense up in DC, can get pretty risky, in this town, I think.
It would be great to see more housing on the mall, but it would also be great to see the Violet Crown stay there.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose that place.
I don't want to lose it either. I am concerned about the viability financially and the business model of a movie theater.
Yeah.
Especially with a market that has 3 of them, and it's not a large market. And they've already highlighted, the previous owners, that the movie theater business there was not viable.
Right.
So I'm concerned as someone who has a stake in this building, having another Dewberry on the mall.
Yeah.
Because
Sure.
that particular structure, you know this better than I do, is not really set up to convey to other use. I mean, we have rooms with no windows that are massive.
Yeah.
I mean, a movie theater.
Yeah.
That's my concern.
Sure, and the truth be told, I think the movie theater is an important part of the
Same.
the viability of the downtown area. So I think, well, it's kind of a side effect, but I think there are other ownership models that might come into play to make a movie theater there viable, like community supported. That is the kind of facility I think a community probably could get behind.
So who owns that now? 'Cause it's not Dorothy anymore?
So no. It's it's the owner of the business is a movie operating business company out of Texas, out of Austin.
Well, Violet Crown.
Yeah,
I know
and
that. But
the previous owner was also the operator of the business. The owner of the real estate was also the operator of the business. And the owner of the real estate said, I want to get out of this, operating this business. So they sold the business operations to another movie operator.
Right.
There's less than 3 years left on that lease.
So, but Dorothy Batten used to own the building.
Yep.
'Cause she did the lease
She's
with
out.
Regal. She's
Yeah,
out.
She's out. Yeah.
So whoever bought it from her may have a vision of something. They might have-
Whoever bought it from her had a kind of, I don't want to use the word backdoor, but kind of had a side deal in place with Jeff Levine to develop it once the lease expired. I got other questions are coming in, and I'm mindful of your time here. Very curious of both your takes on multifamily housing. You have 4 significant development projects. There's the Old Ivy residence with Graystar on the 250 bypass and Old Ivy Road.
Huge.
525 units coming there.
Yep.
You have the Verve, which is being done by national developer Subtex, 1,332 beds, 463 units by Scott Stadium on Stadium Road. The Bloom, which is a national developer, Up Campus Student Living. They're doing 641 beds, 231 units by Moe's Barbecue. Yep. On Ivy Road.
Yep.
And then you also have the University of Virginia that is trying to bring Darden students on grounds for them to live there, while the University of Virginia is trying to put second years on grounds, all second years.
Right. When I went to the Ivy Corridor there?
Yeah. So you have minimum 1,437 multifamily units all coming online within like a year of each other.
Yep.
while the University of Virginia is trying to get all of second years to live in student housing.
Yeah.
Seems from just layman's perspective that that's a lot of multifamily coming on at the same time, where there's a lot of multifamily locally that's vacant.
Yeah, I just to go back to incremental development again, that organization, I think one of their key points, which I think is right on target, is that the real estate market in this country is basically bifurcated. You've got big tract developers doing large-scale rental properties, like the ones you just talked about, and there's the single-family guys doing single-family houses, and very little in the middle, And that was part of the impetus behind my High Street project to do what's been called the missing middle. And that, to me, is really the key to infill development in the city. And so there are a whole bunch of people who are not interested in living in a large apartment rental complex, or they don't particularly want single-family detached in the suburbs. They're looking for something different, and that's the market that just isn't being addressed right now.
Well, because it doesn't often pencil out.
Yeah, and part of that is just, and the zoning ordinance has helped fix that. Now there are more opportunities once we can get things rolling, I think, but certainly that was, my High Street project was a success, but probably not as successful as it should have been if we'd been able to move that along more quickly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Neil Williamson for you guys. He's got a question for you. The number of units on Roger and Richard's project are below the 10-unit affordable housing trigger.
Yep.
Could it be viable if they had to provide 10% of their product as affordable to 60% AMI for 99 years? See, Neil already knows the answer to that question. That is a loaded question, but he wants you guys to answer this.
Answer that directly. The short answer, no.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
He's doing this because he's lobbying council to change this. Brian Pinkston, who just lost the spot on council, said it's a living, breathing document, and it's up to be changed. But it hasn't been changed in 14 months, 15 months, when the development community has said, there's no way we can meet this criteria.
Yeah, my first thought was keep it simple, and simple was three houses, not six, and getting into affordable housing.
We could have put 6 units there that would have included 2 units that have to meet the city's requirement for affordable housing. And that is, in my mind, was just for this particular project, added risk to the project. You're building, basically 2 more units that have to be, filed with the city every year.
It would have looked congested. Think how many more cars would have been
And then you start
on that little street, for
probably
instance.
start getting a little friction.
And
exactly.
I can say that I've, my projects have almost always included some kind of affordable housing, generally as an accessory unit. Under in the project. I have, where I live now has an accessory unit. The house I just sold had one. River Bluff has several houses with accessory units.
Right.
That is the kind of affordable housing that it is relatively easy to include in these things, and I think that didn't happen on this project with Rogers because of I would have loved to put 6 units on there, but the risk involved with the city's criteria gave me pause.
Understandable.
Keep in mind the existing home facing East Market will have a 1 or 2 bedroom, 1 bath basement or terrace level living situation for friends or neighbors or whatever. So it's going to have 2 ways of living in that home. So it is addressing the affordable housing situation a little bit.
Got 2 more for Richard, and then I want to get the teas on hockey.
Okay.
And then we'll wrap it up. This one's for Richard here. And I'm going to ask both you guys this question. Last, would you guys do this again, knowing what you know at this point? Would you do this project again? But first, I would love for Richard to compare and contrast the High Street project with this? What has been more banging your head on the table or frustration?
Boy. Well, I tell you,
Because that was no easy task on High Street.
it was not. It was, in my opinion, unnecessarily complicated for a so-called by right project.
You said previous shows you would not do that project again.
I said, and until things change, I'm not going to do this kind of thing again. I certainly see the potential under the new code for things to change. I think they got a ways to go yet. And I think we're learning a lot with this new process. Let's just say I don't want to categorically rule out never doing this again, but once the city kind of gets things fixed up and the process gets rolling, I would certainly consider doing more of this in the city.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. And then same question for both you guys before hockey. Would you do this again?
I would.
Yeah?
The hockey?
No, this project. I got to get hockey because he wants to talk
Okay,
hockey
I'm
with
sorry,
you.
yeah.
Well, he just answered. I'll answer. I would do it again.
Yeah.
Although I was chagrined it took so long, I was sort of prepared for that, and everything takes a long time. And apropos to, I just to mention the ice arena project at UVA, it took 45 years, so 15
This is
months is
quick.
nothing. No, literally 45 years for me.
Yeah. Less skin in the game for you, though,
Which, what do you
with this
mean?
project.
With the Market Street
Yeah.
project, less skin in the game? I mean financially? No, more skin in the game. I don't have a financial skin in the ice arena project.
Oh, well, no, I meant with the other folks involved. Market Street.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess.
Yeah, no,
Both-
I would love to do more of this. I would love to do more projects like this Market
Yeah.
Street. What I would like to do is more of the...
You want to build the playbook to help people do this. That's what you want to
Exactly.
do.
What I would
Yeah,
like to do
yeah.
is to
That's
just
totally you.
just
but-
help people,
Yeah.
so we can just kind of bang these out and do more of these quickly and not spend a lot of time kind of pushing these things through the process with the city.
Yeah, he's
So-
basically saying they're the beta test for pursuing this new zoning ordinance. He wants to create a playbook, the X's and O's of doing this,
Yeah.
and when people approach them, he can charge a nominal consulting fee
Exactly.
and say, here's how to get from here to there.
Yeah,
that's what you want to do.
Right, sure. And
That's
here's
a business. That's a
here's
business.
some quick sketches of how you can do this, and
You should totally do that.
yeah. And I'm doing that to a certain degree with a couple other projects right now, but I think that's sort of what the city needs is just kind of a people look at their lot and say,
Yeah.
what can I do here? And well, how do you answer that question? You go to the city can't really give you an answer to that. They'll say,
Richard's
well, you
the
can,
guy.
you can do this, 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 or this,
Yeah.
but that doesn't really help
Totally
anyone.
get it.
Yeah.
The
so-
average Joe or the average Josie is not going to be able to build the team that you guys have, but
Right.
they can call Richard and get the playbook of what to do.
Yeah, and to get a bit of quick advice about how to proceed on these things. I think that's really what the city needs. At this
That's a
point.
great idea.
Yeah.
That is a great idea.
That's the best takeaway from this whole show.
There we
Yeah.
go. Yeah,
Call
that's
Roger,
once we get
Richard, or Daniel.
once we
Yeah.
get things worked out. Let's figure out a way to really apply
Scale.
this. Yeah, scale it up and
Scale it up, yeah.
make it easier. Yep.
Roger, last one. I'm going to try to pull this out of you here, but you're going to tease the community here. Hockey, my friend.
So, if you know me, you know that I believe, for good reason, that the only way an ice rink or ice arena in this community will survive 50 to 100 years is if it's part of the University of Virginia. And I've come to that conclusion through helping do this at Miami University in Ohio. And so I've behind the scenes lobbied UVA since literally 1980. I can show you letters from the athletic department. I paused while we went through the ice park creation and then Main Street Arena. But when Mark and I and others decided to take Jeffrey's offer on selling it, we re-engaged. And there's, the universe says it'll support you in your endeavors if you take a step forward and then another step. Well, one day, a woman told my partner, Dan Smythe, and I, you gentlemen have been working really hard. You need fiscal assurance when dealing with UVA. You can start with $10 million from me, but I think it's a $20 or $30 million project. I trust there's other hockey families out there. All the best. So with that, we were able to finally get the attention of everybody at the university, from the Board of Visitors to
10 million will do that.
Mark Llewellyn, President Ryan, but we're ending up at the UVA Foundation, and I'm not going to tell you anymore because I have such great respect for everybody I've worked with over there. We're about 30 to 60 days from really embodying this in a press release. Just to give you an idea, today I was at UVA alumni setting up an account so people can give us money. Officially has to go somewhere so you can get your tax deduction. So I know Richard wants to make $500,000 donation, so he's an alumni. It's got to go somewhere. Anyways, no one would be more anxious to tell you the rest than me, but
I understand.
I've got to play
Yeah.
this correctly. That's why we didn't come on the show about the real estate project too early either, because it wouldn't have been as impactful. But the next time I come on, I hope it's with my partner Dan and maybe Andrew Hickson, who's the current coach. We could talk about past, present, and future,
Love to do that.
and where it's going to be, and who's going to design it, and what it's going to be like, and who's going to go there, and how many kids are we going to serve. And we might even have a temporary rink somewhere, like at the Boar's-Head or Ix, 60 by 100 little ice rink for the winter time. Probably talking too much right now, but you wanted some teas.
Oh, that was a hell of a tease.
And I got a lot more.
That's a hell of a story.
You're going to be so happy when you hear what I have to say.
I cannot wait to hear it. I think it's going to be great for the community. You guys, I've taken too much of your time, but it's been to the benefit of the viewers and listeners. I'm sorry for the questions and comments that we didn't get to. We've been going 71 minutes straight with these guys, and we're mindful of their time. The show is archived for those that are asking wherever you get your social media or your podcasting content. And as multiple people have said in the feed, these are two of the good guys in the development business. And I absolutely concur. Roger Voisinay and Richard Price. And I have to highlight Judah Wickhauer behind the camera.
Yay, Judah.
The show and the network do not operate without him. My name is Jerry Miller. Tomorrow's show, the development team behind CVille Smash, the new indoor pickleball facility that's being developed in the old Marshall's location on Route 29. Nearly 10 indoor courts coming to an old retail location. Goodness gracious, wait till you hear what they have gone through to get to this point with the old Marshall's location and CVille Smash, which is approaching a grand opening. Mark your calendars for 12:30 tomorrow. So long, everybody.
How many pickleball courts will that be in Charlottesville? 'Cause